Welcome back. So this time we're going to be looking at the HiFiMAN Arya and the HiFiMAN Ananda and compare them to the Focal Elex. Ever since its release, the Focal Elex has become one of the benchmarks in an audiophile's collection because of its mostly natural timbre and for gaining the reputation as a step up for the HD6XO gang. You know, the HD600, 650s, 660S, yada yada. Now, before we begin, I'd like to point out that the Aryas used for this review are the original revision, not the stealth revision done recently, which was about in early 2020. This is with the mesh, without the extra foam in between the driver and the grill out here. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin. Now, as far as the contents go, the Anandas have the nicest box. It features a very interesting design, as you can see here. It's made out of pleather. It's got the Ananda logo up top, it's got the Ananda logo up front, and it has the HiFiMAN branding right there. And when you open it, as you can see, it's kind of this like slanted design, so you open it like that, and there's the insides. The Elex on the flip side feature an over-the-top display box that looks amazing and is pretty massive. And when you open it up, inside here go the cables, and it's got this kind of like a soundproof foam kind of design at the front with the strap over here. Very, very nice. Now, the Aryas are in dead last as far as the box goes. As you can see here, it's pretty much a straightforward box. It's simple. Now, the Anandas are the only of the three that feature more than one cable. The Anandas have this short dual 3.5mm tip ring sleeve to L-shaped 3.5mm tip ring sleeve cable. As you can see, they also feature the 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve adapter, and they also have this longer dual 3.5mm tip ring sleeve cable to straight plug 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve cable. Now, the Aryas pretty much just offer a short dual 3.5mm tip ring sleeve cable to a 1/4 inch straight tip ring sleeve cable. Now, the Elex do offer something special as well. They do have their dual 3.5mm tip sleeve cable, not tip ring sleeve, to XLR 4-pin, and the same thing on this side, but it goes out to a straight 1/4 inch tip ring sleeve plug. Now, as far as the build quality is concerned, the winners are as follows: the Elex, the Ananda, and last place, the Aryas. The Elex feature an extremely robust build quality. They are mostly made of metal, with the only plastic part being where the logo resides, which is Focal right there, and it's just Focal on this side. That's what I meant to say. Even then, these small pieces feel really high quality. You can feel that it's plastic, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's gonna break on you anytime soon. Now, the design language on these is extremely streamlined and style oriented, as it not only focuses on giving you a good seal, a good fit, but also a good look. The Anandas are close behind. They also mostly feature an all metal design, with the few exceptions being the cups themselves, the size adjustment mechanisms on this side and that side, and the suspension strap up top. However, their design language is a little more, I don't know how to describe it, but just kind of, you know, like pulled out of a machine. It doesn't really look like a style headphone compared to the Elex. So yeah, they're less looks oriented and try to feature a more comfortable design above all. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this here. The Aryas are straight up dead last. The only metal parts present are the headband itself and the grills right there. The only metal parts present here are the headband themselves, or the headband itself, and the grills, as you can see. Every other part of the headphone is made out of a type of plastic that may seem a bit hard to trust. Listen. Yeah, this $1,600 for this kind of build quality. I don't know about that. As far as comfort is concerned, this is where the tables turn. The winners are as follows: the Arya, followed by the Ananda, and in dead last, the Elex. So mostly due to the Arya's somewhat unattractive, or well, should I say, comfort-oriented design and its mostly plastic build, it's actually the most comfortable headphone on this list by far. It's one of the most comfortable headphones I have ever had the pleasure of placing on my head. The Anandas are far below the Aryas in comfort, but their extremely large cups and suspension strap design do allow them to distribute their already lightweight design pretty decently, although their clamp force is just a bit much for me. Now, the Elex are dead last here, since they are actually one of the most uncomfortable headphones I have ever worn. Now, they're not terrible, and they feel alright when you barely put them on. However, as time passes, you definitely begin to notice them weighing down on the top of your head, as well as around the ears. Not that it has a lot of clamp force here, it's just that there's a lack of clamp force which makes these feel loose, but then because of all the weight that's happening here, and because of all the weight that's landing up here, these kind of like begin to curl inward and give you that feeling of a strong clamp force, but it really is not a strong clamp force at all. Now we jump into the sound portion of this review. Quick note, this comparison was tested using stock frequencies, so no EQ was applied, and I will go into EQ adjustments near the end of the review. As far as bass guitars are concerned, the Anandas offer a more textured sound, featuring the most growl to the bass guitars. The Aryas offer a very textured sound as well, while also featuring a warmth over it that is very satisfying, although not as textured. So it's more of a fluffy bass, and the best balance between the two of these. Now, the Elex on the flip side are essentially a less capable version of the Aryas. They feature the warmest / fluffiest bass guitar response, although they are the least detailed of the three. Now, in the sub bass, the Aryas definitely take the cake. They've become well regarded in the audiophile community precisely for their sub bass. I mean, if you haven't heard a pair of Aryas, you need to do yourself a favor and pick them up and listen to some EDM or some hip hop or something that has a lot of like electronic bass or even bass guitars that are, prominent bass guitars in a track. You really owe it to yourself to try that out. If, not necessarily big bass, but quality bass is your thing. So they offer the deepest extension and the largest presence down below of the three. And FYI, they also offer that this is the headphone with the most sub bass and depth in the sub bass that I have ever heard as well. Now, the Anandas offer an excellent sub bass response as well, although it is the one with the least deep extension. The Elex feature a slightly deeper bass extension than the Anandas do, but at the cost of clarity. The Anandas definitely sound cleaner as you approach the edge. So I'll give an example I've never given before. Helena Beat by Foster the People, the drums at the very beginning of the track. The Elex offer the biggest slam, accompanied by a thick timbre. The Anandas offer the second largest slam, but they lack the small amount of rumble at the lower portions. The Aryas offer the least amount of authority here, but do accompany the drums with that excellent rumble down below. They are also the second thickest sounding headphone of the three. Generally speaking, the Aryas offer the deepest sub bass, feature a warmish timbre. The Anandas are colder and offer the least sub bass, but do offer the biggest slam. And the Elex offer the warmest timbre and extend pretty deep for their price range, but are the least detailed for sure. Now we jump into mids. Look, with female vocals, the Anandas have the most forward vocals to a fault. They can be quite shouty and difficult to listen to on the most forward of tracks. The Elex are almost as forward as the Anandas, but not as harsh. The Aryas are the least intense in this department, offering a sweet and clear presentation without shoving the voice into my ear canals. Now, with male vocals, the Elex feature the most forward vocals while being able to reproduce a mostly smooth rendition. The Anandas are close to the forwardness of the Elex, and the Aryas still feature the clarity required, but do sound the most distant of the bunch. So for band/orchestral instruments, the Anandas feature the most nimble and detail-rich response. The Elex feature a smoother response while still being forward, and the Aryas offer a similar smoothness as the Elex, but sound less forward. Now, as far as the treble is concerned, the Anandas are the most treble-heavy of the bunch, featuring a response that makes treble-heavy tracks somewhat unlistenable. They do possess that HiFiMAN silvery timbre in larger quantities than the Aryas do. The Aryas are the darkest of the three, offering a more neutral but ever so slightly bright sound signature. Although they are mostly dark, they do possess a bit of a peak at around the 6K mark that gives them just a bit of extra brightness. I mean, just a bit. Now, the Elex are just right down the middle in terms of the treble intensity. Not that they are dark headphones, but they do possess a bit of the typical dark headphone characteristic that makes the higher end sound a bit boxy. So if you've heard the HD650s before, or HD6XX, you know exactly what I'm talking about there. They remain mostly flat in the treble right up until you reach the very high end, and then witness that roll off. Now, as far as soundstage and imaging go, in terms of the soundstage width, they're all really close. I'd say that the Anandas and the Elex are very close to each other. The Aryas then take it up a bit wider than that, but it's just a smidge. It's literally the difference of like swapping the pads on your headphones and adding slightly thicker pads. It's a small difference, but you can hear the difference. Same thing on these. Generally speaking, all three are quite wide sounding, although not as wide as the Sennheiser HD800 series. The Elex have a bubble-ish form to their soundstage, while the HiFiMAN sound more like a large box. So, you know, to just kind of make sense of that, the Elex kind of just sound like this, while the HiFiMANs kind of sound like this, you know, more like a box.
We ain't talking about this or this. We're talking about this.
Now, as far as imaging goes, they're also really close. I felt that the HiFiMANs had better imaging by just a smidge. Now, the Anandas are excellent. They are, and the Aryas take that up a notch in terms of clarity and accuracy. But the Elex are amazing too, don't misunderstand. Now, as far as the notes and observations portion goes, I hadn't put on the Elex for quite a while until now that I am doing this comparison. And my God, the comfort is just as bad as I remember. Like, it's something I really didn't miss at all. You know, nice trophy to put up on a bookcase on a very nice Omega stand with its cable coiled around, and yeah, they have an excellent sound, but it's like, you put them on and it's like, oh, right, that's what I've been missing. I don't want it. Now, the ceiling fan thing, I have to mention that as well. If you have a ceiling fan or a tower fan blowing at your direction from the left or right side, expect the wind to cause your Anandas or Aryas to make a quite wobbly type of sound. This can only be heard when not playing anything or during a quiet passage. So for example, when I was testing these out, listening to the intro to Hotel California, I could listen to that wobble come in every now and then. It sounded like an additional detail alongside the other instruments. It's kind of funny. So if we apply EQ, the Ananda's peaks in the treble can be fixed a bit, but they lose the characteristics that makes them special, or that make them special. The Aryas are near perfect and only require a minor adjustment in the 6K area. Even then, it isn't entirely necessary. Now, the Elex are also near perfect and can be EQ'd in the bass to remove some of that excessive warmth in the mid-bass area. By doing so, they do sound a bit cleaner, and I do prefer their sound this way. But I can, just as well, turn off that EQ and have them sound the way they do naturally, and I'm fine with that as well. If it was my only headphone, I would definitely leave that EQ on, and then every now and then disable it. Now, conclusion time. The Elex and the Aryas are the two headphones that are the most similar of the bunch, with the Anandas being an entirely different monster. By jumping from the Elex to the Aryas, you gain a much, and I mean much, more comfortable headphone, an incomparable sub-bass response, the timbre of a planar magnetic headphone, but you do lose intensity and build quality along the way. Now, by choosing between the Elex and the Anandas, you must ask yourself if you are looking for a warmer and neutral headphone or a more hyped V-shaped sound. You must also consider that comfort factor. They're, two peas in a pod, except these are, like I said, taller, so they don't pinch my ears, and then the Elex come close, but they don't quite do it. But it feels kind of like when it's like right there, like right about to be, like if your ears are kind of being grabbed by something on the sides and kind of being shrunk down, but they're not. They aren't being pressed down on. They're just kind of, they're kind of hugging your ears from the top and bottom, and it feels a little weird. So, that's pretty much it. Go ahead and leave your comments down below. Tell me if I missed anything, something you'd like to know regarding either of these three, how they compare to each other. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and go ahead and leave your comments down below, like I said. Don't forget to check out the Patreon, and there will be links to the Anandas and the Aryas down below in the description. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this improves your purchasing decision. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.